Well, thank you everybody for taking some time today to have a conversation about who are we and why should they care, developing value propositions. My name is Drew Navolio. I'm with the David James Group. I'm a partner here and work on our account services side. They will be introducing themselves shortly, but our speakers today are Dr. Edward Leach. He is the Executive Director, now retired, of National Institute for Staff and Organizational Development, and my partner in crime, Ron Zawicki. We do have a quick poll that we're just going to toss up here to start. And if you could participate with that, that would be wonderful. You have a few seconds just to participate. See some of the votes coming in. That's great. Thank you. Okay. About 10 more seconds here. Looks like we got most of everybody. Okay. So kind of where people land, our value proposition could use some more work. And we've never clearly defined it, which is not uncommon, which is why we're here today. So I'll stop sharing those results, bring them up later for discussion. Please feel free to submit questions as Ed and Ron are discussing the topic. We'll also save some time at the end to discuss as well. But at this point, I will go ahead and hand it over to Ed and Ron.
Thank you, Drew. Dr. Leach, if you don't mind, introduce yourself.
Sure. Yeah, as you heard, my name is Edward Leach. Let me start with a little bit about NISOD first and a little bit about myself. The National Institute for Staff and Organizational Development, more commonly known in our sector as NISOD, has been around since 1978. We are a community college association. Community technical colleges are members of ours. So the membership is at the institutional level with those institutions. Community college and NISOD came out of the University of Texas because at the University of Texas, there was a community college leadership program that produced the largest number of community college leaders, presidents, chancellors, vice presidents, vice chancellors in the country for the longest time. That unfortunately, that program no longer exists. But NISOD was the outreach arm for that community college leadership program. Like I said, that program no longer exists, but NISOD continues to do its work, which is largely around professional development, which I'll tell you more about here later. I've been with NISOD since, I should say I was with NISOD since 2013. I was actually a graduate of the community college leadership program that I mentioned a few seconds ago. And as you had also heard, I retired last Thursday from NISOD after, I guess that would be about 11 years with the organization.
Thanks, Ed. And I'm Ron Zawicki, president and one of 4 partners here at the David James Group. I had the pleasure to deliver this presentation with Ed at the ASAE MMC and Tech meeting that was in June. It was a great session. Grateful for Ed's participation in this, and we're pleased to bring this to you today, and exemplifies just one of the things we do here at DJG in terms of helping our members discover their voice, discover their value proposition, and just keep building their brand. So we'll go ahead and jump into the presentation. I'm going to start with Ed. He talked a bit about the background of NISOD, but we want to share 2 of the things that were developed as part of this process, starting with your mission.
Yeah, so as you can see there, our mission is to empower faculty, administrators, and staff at community and technical colleges to grow professionally, strive for excellence, and make an impact and gain recognition. As I think Ron just mentioned, this mission and the vision that I'm about to read as well came as a result of the work that we did with the David James Group. Uh, if you want to go down to the vision slide there. So yeah, this bubbled out of that effort as well. For NISOD to be the premier professional development resource for achieving excellence in community and technical colleges. So that is our vision. You saw our mission, and both the mission and the vision came out of the work that we did with the David James Group.
And just about a little bit about DJG, if you're not aware. So we are a full service marketing firm that serves associations and nonprofits. Our mission is we deliver bold ideas and creative leadership to help our mission-driven clients impact the world. We've been around since 2002, and we are based in Chicago, and we love working with associations and organizations such as NISOD. So let's talk a bit about what we're going to discuss today and what the takeaways will be. So what we want to communicate is, if you're thinking about going through a value proposition or key messaging exercise, these are the three things that we're gonna talk through and that we want you to take away. What questions do you need to ask throughout the process? Why should you begin the process, for example? How to approach it with a strategic framework, and then the importance of having that focused value proposition or propositions in order to facilitate marketing. So what we'll share today is the process, but we're also going to share an end result of what we did, and that was a membership marketing campaign that was fueled by the work we did up front. So we'll go into that a little bit as well. So those are the three takeaways we are looking at today. So when we set out the process with NISOD, we identified 4 key milestones. The first milestone was an immersion process where we just learned as much as we could about NISOD, and we'll talk a bit about that shortly, and develop a plan for the organization that would outline goals and some of the other things that are important for the organization. Then the next step we took was to develop the organizational brand, position, and keep messaging, basically lay out the value propositions as we understood them. Third is we did work very closely with NISOD to identify who are the key target audiences, including a primary audience member that we'll talk about. And then we develop personas for those to put a sort of a face on these targeted audiences. And then lastly, as I alluded to, we'll introduce the campaign that we ran. So I'm going to turn it back over to Ed, and he's going to sort of talk about, what prompted his outreach to DJG.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, NISOD is a community college association, community and technical colleges, of which there are, depending on who's doing the counting, anywhere between 1,100 and 1,200 of those in the United States alone. At that time, we had about 300 of those community and technical colleges that were members of NISOD. So clearly there was plenty of room for growth. A lot of colleges that we just weren't connecting with, tapping into. So that was one thing that I realized, we could be doing a better job with. But at the same time, I should have mentioned at that point, when we first started talking to DJG, there were just 6 of us. We have since grown since we started with DJG. But at that time, we did not have a marketing person on board. So we knew that was an area where we needed some help, because we didn't have the internal staff to do some of the things that I wanted to do. Also recognize that when we were doing our marketing, using our internal people, none of which were actually, like I said, trained as marketers or promoters, it mostly consisted of reaching out to presidents and maybe chief academic officers at non-member colleges regarding having their college join NISOD. And in our messaging, it was mostly just a list of the different resources and features that were available at NISOD. And I'll talk a little bit more later about how we changed our messaging in that regards. And then I think we also recognized that there were probably some marketing channels that we weren't fully taking advantage of that would help us in our marketing efforts if we were to take advantage of those marketing channels. So those were some things that came to mind that led us to wanted to reach out to an organization like the David James Group to see if they could assist us with the effort that we had in mind. So in 2022, I went to the ASE conference. I forget where it was that year, but partially with the intent of going through the enormous exhibit hall that they have and talking to organizations, companies that I thought could help NISOD with this effort that I've described. Talked to several different organizations, received proposals from those organizations, and we went through a formal process of evaluating those, and thankfully landed on the David James Group as the organization that we wanted to assist us with this effort. And that effort was not only coming up with our mission and vision that you saw earlier, but also help us actually hone our value proposition and help us with developing a membership recruitment campaign.
Thanks, Ed, and we're thankful that you selected us. And it was a well thought out RFP, and we worked to ensure that we were providing the services that NISOD needed, and we were very pleased to get that notification that we were selected. So now let's jump into where we started. Before we do that, we did want to introduce you to the NISOD audience. This all again came out of the workshop work that we did, and we whittled it down to 4 key audience members. And I'm going to let Ed talk a bit about these members and our primary audience member.
Yeah, so I've said it a couple of times, I'll say it one more time. We are a community and technical college association. Even though the name doesn't necessarily imply it, National Institute for Staff and Organizational Development, our primary audience are faculty members at those institutions. The challenge in that is that even though our primary audience are faculty members don't have the ability to have their college become a member of NISOD. Again, the membership is at the institutional level. We don't have individual memberships. So even though most of our resources are targeted towards faculty members, they're in no position to have their college sign up as a NISOD member college. So that's why we are in a position of having to reach out to the president at those institutions, who obviously is in a position to have their institution be a member of NISOD. And because we're faculty focused and faculty are led by the chief academic officer at their institution, that's another group of individuals that we want to reach out to, because they are, in addition to leading the instructional efforts at their institution, they are also in a place to be able to, in a role to be able to have their college become a member of NISOD. And then the professional development officer, a group that we weren't previously targeting, but through this work that we did with the DJG, it became clear that this is the audience that we should be targeting, because they're responsible for not only professional development for faculty members, but other folks at their institution. But by reaching out to these professional development officers, we can provide them with information about how the resources and the features and such that NISOD has available can help them do their job better, especially when it comes to offering professional development for the faculty members at their institutions. And then, as you heard me say, most of our resources are geared towards helping faculty members become better classroom instructors, regardless of discipline. We're not discipline specific. So a lot of our resources are general in nature, but they're all designed to help faculty members, regardless of their discipline, become better classroom instructors and help their students achieve better academically.
Thank you, Ed. So let's talk about how we got here. So I laid out the milestones earlier, so we'll talk about the first one, which is our immersion process. And the way we approached this was even before me and a colleague of mine went down to Austin to meet in person with the NISOD staff, we sent ahead a list of things that we wanted to gather. Basically, we wanted to do some homework to learn more. So we have a document, we sent it along to the staff at NISOD. They pulled all this together, put it in a Dropbox, and that gave us a good overview of all the types of things that, the types of marketing they've done, background on the organization, information about their audience as they saw it, all those types of things, some strategic plans, whatever they can provide us. So we did our homework, we had that armed with us. And then we went to Austin, and we conducted an all-day on-site workshop. Old school, we were in person. We put up paper around the room, the big post-it note sheets, and we just led them through the process where we explored things like benefits, values, audience types, goals, everything that is necessary to inform the process. So some of the things we did look at throughout this process, you can see them here, membership details, the position in the marketplace, target audience, as I mentioned, key messaging as they saw it, attitudes that we needed to overcome, potential competitors, or in the association world, it's more like frenemies. So we went through this whole process, and I wanted to ask Ed to reflect a little bit on what his takeaways were in this meeting.
Yeah, so as a result of that in-depth, I think it was a day and a half, if not mistaken, discovery meeting, several things did bubble up for us. I'm gonna just talk about a few. We had a sense for already, obviously, who some of our competitors were, but it validated who we thought those organizations were. There's an organization in Washington, D.C. called the American Association of Community Colleges that, as you might imagine, with them being based in Washington, does a lot of advocacy and political work and that type of work up on the Hill. But they also have some professional development opportunities, and we're adding more and more, some very similar to what NISOD does. I used to work for an organization called the League for Innovation in the Community College before I joined NISOD, and they're very similar to what NISOD does, and certainly we're a competitor of NISOD. And then there's a lot of organizations out there that do professional development that might not necessarily be targeted specifically to community colleges, but have resources that are relevant to faculty members at community colleges that we needed to be aware of and became aware of even more so through this process. Something else that bubbled up out of this was, the triggers and pain points that our member colleges and potential member colleges experienced. Certainly, and many of you may be aware of this, community colleges, community technical colleges are getting more and more recognition around the country through local business and industries, through the federal government, through philanthropic organizations and such. But unfortunately, even though they're getting more recognition and more people are starting to recognize the value of going to community colleges for those first 2 years, the funding coming to community colleges is being decreased on a regular basis. Real quickly here, historically, community colleges are funded from three sources: the local tuition, the local tax base, and then the state in which they reside provides funding. Well, the states, not only with community colleges, but with a lot of higher education, education in general, unfortunately, have been cutting back on some of that funding. So that's something that a lot of our community colleges have been experiencing. Something else that we became aware of, and we're already kind of aware of it, but there's a lot of people changing leadership roles in community colleges at the CEO level and at the chief academic officer level. So you might imagine with an organization like ours who is reaching out to the CEOs and the chief academic officers to alert them, inform them about NISOD. If those names and contact information aren't up to date in our database, that makes it a bit problematic for us to reach the right people. But it also makes it interesting time for the institutions when they see a lot of constant changeover in the leadership role at those institutions. Probably because of the economy more than anything else, there's a lot more pressure on community colleges to provide short-term credentials around workforce development, getting people in their community into those institutions, get them trained and get them back into the workforce as quickly as possible, not only for the benefit of those individuals, but benefit for the business and industry partners who are in those areas. And then maybe the last thing I'll mention is, again, depending on who's doing accounting, anywhere between 11 and 1,200 community colleges out there. We had about 300, maybe 300 and some change of those, and certainly wanted to deepen our penetration into the community college sector.
And to do that, thank you, Ed. So to do that, what we did is we synthesized all this information and we developed an organizational marketing insight overview. And I'm just going to show a couple quick pages of this document. And in it, we were able to sort of capture what we had learned in this session, put it into writing and sort of create a document there that could be referenced. And we also did things such as identified goals. We did the target audiences, which we'll speak more about when we get into the personas. But this document really just sort of laid out everything we learned and how we could move forward. So it was our rallying cry to use this to plan for the campaign that we were doing. And also this provides NISOD with a document that sets them up for future marketing initiatives. So it wasn't just focused on membership per se, but there's just some good insight here, and we identified challenges and whatnot. So it's a comprehensive document that we provided to the NISOD staff, and they continue to use to this day. Ed, I don't know if you had any comments on that or.
Yeah, you're right. It's one that we do continue to use to this day. And I might would mention a couple of other things regarding that. One of those being that it was clear in our marketing efforts that we did have that we weren't really sharing why colleges should become a member of NISOD. It was more about, here's a long list of things that we have available. You should join NISOD, as opposed to, the value proposition. What's the benefit to the college of these different features that NISOD had available? And I think something else I would share is that one of the things that we discovered that the community colleges that were already members of ours, they weren't taking full advantage of all of the resources that are available to them. So we wanted to find a way to make sure that we were communicating to them, how they could take better advantage of all the different resources that were available to. One of the things we were real fortunate about is that once we get a member college, they stay with us. We have excellent, retention numbers, percentages, but our challenge was getting in new members in the door, which is what we really wanted to focus on. So I think that's about all I would say about that.
Okay. All right, thank you. So milestone 2, again, coming out of this work that we did, was to get to the heart of what are the value propositions, what do we need to communicate, what are the key messages and brand positioning of NISOD to its audience of college and technical colleges. So we went about a process by which we broke down the messaging into 5 different areas, but the reason we want to do this is because when you have defined messaging, there's several benefits. You have a clarity of what you need to say. You have consistency in what you're saying. You have messaging that's relevant to the audience, so it's looking from their point of view, not the organization's point of view per se, but really it's answering their needs. It helps you differentiate your brand. Ed mentioned the competition that we have, so we needed to set NISOD apart. It does help when you have strong messaging to, increase your impact and recall of your organization because it's consistent and on message constantly. You reinforce that. It ensures that you're aligned with the marketing objectives and both are in sync. This is what we want to say, and this is how we're going to get our message out. Messaging is not really channel specific. It has to work in many different areas, from a video to just a off-the-cuff conversation in a hallway. It needs to work in different areas. And then you need to have the messaging because you can start to understand and measure the results of that. And that could be as simple as just, hearing people talk about the organization in a way that reflects they've heard your messaging. You can do studies, there's ways to do it, but having your messaging on and lined up in good shape is super important for your organization beyond even marketing. We did develop 5 key message areas and the 5 R's, and those are the relationships that NISOD helps you build, the recognition that the organization helps provide not only to you as an individual, but to your college and whatnot. NISOD has a really exciting awards presentation that recognizes staff and faculty at the organizational level. The resources that NISOD provides to its members and how it helps them improve their ability to attract and retain faculty and even at the end of the game students. The representation that NISOD represents this audience, it's a unique audience, and NISOD is your representative out there fighting for you. And that at the end of the day, the important message, when you invest in a NISOD membership, the ROI in terms of the training you have access to, the recognition you can provide, all the tools that we give you will pay for the membership year over year. And I'll just make a note that the pricing is on a scale. It's depending on the number of full-time students enrolled, but the membership dues are not onerous, so it works really well for this organization.
Very, very affordable, and it's based on a student FTE. So smaller colleges obviously pay a smaller amount. Larger colleges pay a larger amount, but even the largest colleges, it's very, very affordable for them and all colleges for that matter.
We did, like the organizational document, we created a messaging deck that is visually similar to that, but you can see here how, for example, here's that key message in terms of relationships. So we have our key message that's written out here, and then proof points, sort of some of the support points that we garnered that support why NISOD is able to say this. So the document provides this layout. We also identified triggers related to the message, quotes that we captured from interviews and some video that we did. So it's a great document that allows you a foundation to figure out how to segment and talk to various audience members. As you can see here, we took this particular message about relationships, and then we took it into those 4 audience persona types. How does this message relate to you? So this provides NISOD with a foundation for messaging, and of course we referenced it throughout the development of the marketing campaign.
And one of my last charges to our staff before retiring last Thursday was to make sure that they frequently and ongoing refer to that document and put it to good use, because there's so much good information in there that could be used for marketing purposes. So some ahas that came out of all this. I think I mentioned this earlier, where NISOD had a practice of really just listing all the different features that we have available as an organization. And I guess we assumed that the colleges would make the connection between those things and how they could benefit their institution. as opposed to us, including that value add in our messaging. So one of the things that we started doing a lot better is, we've got this NISOD Excellence Award that's available. But instead of just telling them that this award is available, telling them about how they can use this at their institution and the benefit to their institution, their faculty, administrators, and staff of becoming a NISOD member college and taking advantage of that NISOD Excellence Award. And we did that for every one of our different resources and features that we have available to get the message out much better about how the institution can benefit from taking advantage of those different items, as opposed to us just listing them and assuming that they'll make the connection to what those things are. Really speaking to what the return on investment is for the college. As Ron mentioned, and I mentioned, our fees aren't very high at all. They're certainly very affordable to an institution. But still, you want to make sure that the institution has a sense that what they're paying in the way of dues, they're seeing a return on their investment. And that's something that we have made a greater effort of making sure we're getting out to them what the return on their investment in NISOD is. You saw the 4 different categories of employees there. Previously, we sort of just dumped everybody into this one group, and everybody got the same message when we were doing our promotional efforts. And really, you're only going to 2 groups: the chief academic officer and the president. And then through this work, we identified 2 more groups: the professional development officers and the faculty. And now when we send out messages, we're doing a much better job of segmenting our audience and targeting the message to the appropriate audience. We still don't do a whole lot with faculty other than occasionally letting them know about the different resources available. But because, like I said earlier, they're not in a position to have their college become a member of NISOD, we limit the amount of targeting we do to that particular group. But the president, the chief academic officer, and the professional development officers, we reach out to on a regular basis with the appropriate messages for those groups.
Yeah, audience segmenting is so important, particularly with the tools available to us this day through email journeying and hyper-focused digital marketing. So this is a really important outcome of this work. And I'll also just share across our client base this transition from listing a list of things that you get to what we provide to you help you reach your goals, whatever they might be, whether you're an individual membership or a trade organization, focus or association. It really does help start to move the marketing needle and help with retention and recruitment. Just a real brief look at the personas a little bit more in depth. I'll just show you the president here. So we look at it as a composite character that is reflective of this persona type. And we worked with NISOD to identify a number of things. What are the traits that are typical to this type of person, in this case, a president? So we list those traits of, results-oriented, committed, diplomatic, but direct. So those types of things. And of course, they don't just apply to everyone individually, but it's a good snapshot. What are the top messaging priorities that we need to talk to them about? In this case, representation and relationships we identified for the president of the org. Their professional aspirations, so we can start to align NISOD's value propositions with what they want to get out of their career, so that it kind of creates that relationship. The triggers they face, the identified benefits that NISOD offers that are good for these particular persona types. Their purchase involvement, that's always good to know. And then again, the benefits that are aligned with their needs. So we did this for each one of these. This is the president. I won't go through these, but you can see how we walk through, and each one's a little bit different. And again, as we're developing email copy and other targeting tools, we can refer to these to start to align our messaging with their needs if we're doing segmentation.
Yeah, one of the things I might quickly add, based on what you just said there, excuse me, folks. Like I said, when we started, we didn't have a marketing person on board. We do now have a marketing person on board, and trust me, she is using this information on a regular basis for the efforts that she's doing and helping us with our ongoing membership campaign, and not only with recruitment efforts, but also with our retention efforts as well. So this is such a valuable document for our marketing purposes.
Thanks, Ed. And that's the whole point, is developing this foundational work to be able to pass along to new staff and existing staff, and that's what we're really happy to see, is these tools provide value, ongoing value. Milestone 3 was the campaign, the final sort of cumulative result of what we did with NISOD. So we worked with Ed and team to identify a campaign that was largely focused on digital deliverables. We did email, we did some social media, there was some print ads that we did, and we even did a print piece. The campaign, the theme that we developed, "We're here for you like you're here for them," was this idea that NISOD provides all these great things. We're here for you to use so that you can be there for them being the students or the faculty or whomever is the them in their mind. So we kind of wanted to create this emotional connection that creates a relationship between NISOD. One of the things we learned, and we saw this in some of the videos we captured, is every association is built on community, and community is so important. It's why people join organizations like NISOD and your organizations. And NISOD was no exception. They had this wonderful community that people really plugged into and started to learn peer-to-peer and whatnot. So we really wanted to create a campaign that was personable and had an emotional connection. The other thing we did do that was important to the campaign is recommend, and NISOD went with it, is some type of a strong offer. It allows us to have a carrot to pull people in. It also helps us from a measurable standpoint, measure the impact of the campaign. In NISOD's case, they offered 6 months free on top of, so you join a year, you got 6 months free. So basically 18 months for the cost of 12 months. Right. So that provided an opportunity for them to get more out of the relationship. Sorry, Ed, you were going to comment on that.
No, I was just agreeing with you. That's exactly what we did. And I don't know if we did that based on previous experience that we've had doing that when it was a successful campaign offer, or if it bubbled up in some other manner. But yeah, you're exactly right. That's what we did with the 18-month, basically, for the cost of 12.
Yep. And that allows us to provide messaging points in terms of savings and whatnot. So it gives us, as the marketing agency, some tools to highlight the value of this and sort of the why wouldn't you approach that we want to get in people's heads.
Yeah.
So the campaign, mentioned a few of the tactics. We did some web banners for nisod.org. We did create a landing page. We always like to create landing pages, a focus page that has the messaging we've developed that we can drive people to, because we can measure, but we can also kind of give them a one-stop place to learn more, at least initially, about the organization based on the messaging developed. We did a print ad, social media I mentioned, and we even sent out a little old school and sent a postcard out. So we had a mix of tactics that were part of our initial campaign. In addition to that, we did do a video that I'm going to roll, and I'll talk a bit more about that in a second here. So let's go ahead and roll the video here.
Community and technical college programs can transform students' lives, but who's helping hardworking administrators, faculty, and staff? We're NISOD, the National Institute for Staff and Organizational Development. We're here for you, like you're there for them. With resources, recognition, return on investment, and relationships you need to thrive. Only for you, all in one place, for one affordable price.
I think NISOD provides a tremendous and diverse array of training opportunities for our faculty, staff, and students that are really important and relevant to educators.
One thing that has been of great benefit in NISOD for Tallahassee Community College and where I work is the opportunity to award excellence, to come through this amazing organization to help us highlight our best talent. It is life-changing.
I think NISOD's return on investment is amazing. It really feels like a one-stop shop for everything that I could want in terms of improvements to teaching, learning, helping my students, and also advocating for people who are in support and student staff services positions as well.
NISOD presents that opportunity for you to really come together and talk with your colleagues around common challenges that we're all facing, but just the unity of the colleagues that I have met and reconnected to has been so exciting, and it has been rewarding to really see many of them who have grown even from faculty members to academic positions.
If you're considering it, don't hesitate. There is tremendous benefits that come from your involvement in NISOD.
And it's just a place where folks can learn from one another, and that's valuable.
Join us today. We're giving new members a bonus 6 months free. We're here for you, like you're there for them. Join us.
You know,
So, go ahead, Ed, sorry.
just gonna jump in and say, on the previous slide there where you showed the different collateral, the website, the print ad, the banners, and et cetera. It was easy working with the David James Group, going back and forth to develop those materials. They work closely with us to make sure that it reflected, NISOD's messaging and the fact that we're a educational institution or working primarily with educational institutions, making sure the language was, appropriate and all that. So, those right there. It was easy to work with you guys to go back and forth over those things to come up with the final products there.
Our pleasure. And throughout the campaign, after the videos, which I'll talk about, we did start to use, where we could, real members as well. Ed and team had their annual event was falling before we launched the campaign. So we took advantage of that time to capture the testimonials that you saw in the previous video. And again, going back to the messaging that we worked with NISOD to develop, we provided, we weren't on site, but we provided a number of questions in addition to some others that Ed and his team had put together that helped drive the content that you saw in the video. And then we were able to parse this out and use just chunks and sound bites and social media ad videos that are a little quicker and whatnot. So it really, use of video is more and more important. It continues to grow and grow in its impact. So why say what somebody can say better as a member? And these testimonials were phenomenal. So they really helped us, drive the success of this campaign. So Ed, I guess if you want to, talk a little bit about some of the campaign reflections that you have, we'll wrap up shortly here.
Yep. Well, I would say that as a result of this work, we ended up with, I shouldn't say we ended up, because we still occasionally will get new members, even though the major part of the campaign has concluded. Which resulted in 11 new member colleges that we were really thrilled to see those results. Based on calculations, we figured there's close to $55,000 of lifetime value from those new members, over a 5-year period. Certainly another charge that I left with the staff there at NISOD is, and I'm sure all the folks on this webinar know this, those new member colleges can oftentimes be the most difficult to retain. So they are to do a concerted effort to make sure that we hang on, they hang on now, I guess, to those 11 member colleges, and of course to other colleges, existing colleges as well. But to make sure that, if we hang on to those for those at least 5 years, if not beyond, the cost of doing this work with the David James Group will far be surpassed by the lifetime value of those member colleges. And like I said earlier, they are continuing to use these resources not only for membership recruitment purposes, but also for retention purposes, to remind even our current member colleges, about why they're current member colleges. These are the return on investment by being a NISOD member colleges is something we want to message to those colleges as well. So all in all, I would say it's been a great effort working with the David James Group, and a very successful effort with working with you folks.
We appreciate it. It was a fun campaign to work on, and it's always rewarding to see how this work, leads into not only new member acquisition, but also providing those tools that the staff can continue to use, even if our engagement is lessened or changes. They've got the foundation they need to continue to succeed, as Ed has pointed out. So it was certainly a pleasure for us. Again, what we talked about today, when you're thinking about this, what questions do you ask to start to get a plan for how you may want to approach updating your value proposition or defining them or whatnot? And this can be, by the way, this whole process can be done at the organizational level, as we did here, but it could also be done if you have an annual event or a product and service. So a lot of what we discussed here is still applicable for different uses. Approaching it from a strategic standpoint, working the work, walking through the process to get to the best results. And then really, again, leaving at the end of the day with value propositions that are reflective of audience's needs, speak to them, and can communicate your organizational benefits and values to attain and retain new members. So that's the end of the presentation. At this point, any questions that you have for Ed and I, we're happy to answer. Sometimes question might be is what's the timing on something like this? Ed, I think we met in December of I don't remember the year, I guess it was 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then throughout the next, we met in December, but I believe between then and the beginning of the year, we had the organizational document put together and the messaging started, if memory serves.
Yeah, our membership year goes from July 1 to June 30th, and we wanted to make sure that we had everything in place for our membership recruitment efforts for that 23-24 membership year. So yeah, we started all this work in December, and had what we needed in place for our recruitment efforts for that 23-24 membership year.
Ed, this is a question for you. Looking back, is there anything you would have done differently in the value proposition development?
Anything I would have done differently in the value proposition development? Nothing immediately comes to mind. No, I don't know that there is. We're real happy with the result of this work. It's been effective, so for that reason, it tells me there's not much reason to change. But I don't remember any time through the process. Maybe if there was anything, it might have been to, and this is on our end. I told you that we had a staff of 6 when we started. At one point, after started working with DJG, we hired an actual marketing person. If there was anything I would have done differently, maybe bring that person on board sooner than what we did. But otherwise, nothing else comes to mind. I was real happy about the way this proceeded and the results of the work.
You know, that's a good point too, is having, when you have a marketing staff, one or two or three people, and we've done this where we've worked with organizations that do have internal marketing. That's important that we're all in sync and we're complementing the skills and talents of the internal team. We're also coming in and helping provide a bit of a third party look and also leverage experience we have in doing this across so many different organizations, because while every association is different and has different focus and different members, a lot of the challenges they may find in terms of their messaging and ensuring that they're talking to their audience in the right way, a lot of those are similar in terms of how we can approach it. So I think it's a good point, is you know, bringing marketing in when you can is key. I don't see any other questions, so I think we're just going to go ahead and wrap up. I just want to say again, thank you to Ed for doing this seminar today and for bringing DJG into NISOD. And I do wish you the best retirement and great fishing and a life beyond the day-to-day. So good luck with that. And thanks again for being here.
My pleasure. I've enjoyed the relationship professionally and otherwise.
And then just lastly, before we end today, we do have another webinar scheduled for September 19th. We're going to feature our client, the Society of Women Engineers. This is a presentation that was just delivered at ASAE just last week, talking about podcasting at a live event. So mark your calendar or scan the QR code there. Registration is live, and we'll be putting promotion out for that. So please plan to come back and join us for this podcast as well. Thanks to Ed, thanks to Drew for introducing us, and thank you to all of you for attending.